The battlefield was silent now. Smoke still rose in thin streams from broken machines and shattered ground. What was once a valley full of noise, fire, and death now looked like a graveyard of steel. The human salvage crew moved carefully, scanning the wrecks for anything of value. Their job was not to fight, but to search, to take what was left behind, and to survive another day. Daniel, the mechanic of the crew, walked a little apart from the others. He always preferred to check the strange shapes at the edges, the wrecks others ignored. His eyes caught sight of a half-buried alien dropship, its hull torn open as if a giant hand had ripped it apart. Sparks flickered inside. Something moved. Daniel stopped, gripping the tool at his side like a weapon. He thought it might be a damaged drone or some leftover trap. But then he heard it. A sound like a weak breath. Inside the wreck, he found her. It was a woman, though not human. She was tall. Even while collapsed, her skin faintly silver under the cracked plates of armor that still clung to her. The armor was strange, not like anything Daniel had seen. It pulsed faintly, glowing in the cracks where power still burned. Smoke hissed from it, and the smell of scorched flesh filled the air. She was alive, but only barely. "Captain," Daniel called softly into his comm. "I've got someone here," Static answered. Then the voice of his captain. "Hostile?" Daniel looked at her again. Everyone in the galaxy knew this species. Warriors, merciless, feared across systems. To find one alive was dangerous. To bring one aboard was madness. "She's hurt." "Badly," Daniel answered. There was a long pause. Then the captain sighed. "Leave her. We can't risk it. Meet us at the North Ridge in 15. Daniel stared at the broken figure before him. Her chest rose and fell in shallow gasps. The armor that once made her unstoppable was now killing her, burning into her skin with every flicker of power. He couldn't leave her. Daniel crouched beside her. "Hey," he said quietly, though he doubted she understood. "You're gonna die if I don't get this thing off you." Her eyes flickered open. They were sharp, glowing faintly with a light that did not look natural. For a moment she tried to lift her hand, but her strength failed. She made a sound, half a growl, half a whisper. Daniel didn't know her words, but the meaning was clear. "Stay away." "I can't," he said. His hands hovered over the armor, tracing the lines where it was fused and cracked. He could see small locks designed to be opened by machines, not hands. But he had fixed worse things in worse places. He pulled a small kit from his belt. The tools were human, but metal was metal, and a lock was always just a lock. He began working. The first piece came free with a hiss of smoke. The alien woman groaned, her body shuddering. Daniel's heart pounded, but he kept moving, hands steady. From the comm, the captain's voice returned. "Daniel, report. Are you still there?" "I'm busy," Daniel muttered. "Busy? Leave the wreck. That's an order." Daniel switched the comm off. The woman's eyes focused on him again. He could feel her distrust, the way she struggled against him even though she had no strength left. She probably thought he was taking her apart like scrap. But he kept speaking softly as he worked. "I'm not your enemy. I'm not here to hurt you. Just hang on." Piece by piece, the armor loosened. Beneath it, her skin was bruised and burned, but she was alive. Daniel noticed how the armor wasn't only protection, it was also a cage. It locked around her like it wanted to own her. He reached the chest plate. The locks here were damaged, sparking dangerously. If he forced them, it might kill her. He studied it for a long moment, then carefully adjusted the wiring with the tip of his tool. Click. The plate shifted, then fell away. Her body slumped forward, free from the crushing weight. She gasped, air rushing into her lungs as if for the first time in days. Daniel caught her before she could fall. He was surprised by how light she felt despite her size. She looked at him again, her lips parting as though to speak. But no words came, only a faint sound, weak and broken. He lowered her gently onto a piece of metal floor, keeping her head raised. Easy. Don't try to move yet. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Only the crackle of fires and the hum of dying machines filled the air. Then she spoke, barely a whisper in her strange accent. Daniel couldn't understand the words, but the tone carried something unexpected. Confusion, almost disbelief. Her eyes softened, and she stared at him as if she had never seen anything like him before. Daniel continued removing the remaining pieces one by one. His movements were slow, careful, not like a scavenger tearing scrap, but like someone handling something fragile. When the last of the armor slid free, she gave a sound that was not pain but release. She looked at him with a mixture of wonder and exhaustion. Her lips shaped new words. This time through the translator in her collar, Daniel heard them. No one's ever undressed me gently. Daniel blinked, unsure if he had heard right. But her eyes closed before he could answer, and she drifted into unconsciousness. He sat there for a long moment, staring at her sleeping form, his hands still stained with soot and blood. The battlefield around him was still dangerous. His captain would be furious, and enemies could return any minute. But Daniel knew one thing with absolute clarity. He had saved her life. The valley around the wreck was still dangerous. Distant thunder rolled not from weather but from war machines far away. The battle here was over, but patrols could return at any time. Daniel knew he had little time, yet his hands worked steadily, pulling away the last sharp pieces of broken armor from the alien woman's body. Every lock was different, every piece stubborn. The armor was built not to be removed by hand, but by machines. Yet Daniel had grown up fixing things no one else could fix. His tools were old, worn smooth by use, but in his hands they felt alive. The woman stirred. Her breathing was ragged, but stronger now than before. Her eyes opened slightly, glowing faintly in the shadows. She watched him work, her gaze sharp, suspicious but also strangely calm. "You're going to be fine," Daniel whispered, even though he knew she probably didn't understand most of his words. "I'll get the rest off." Her lips moved, shaping words in her own language, low and hoarse. Daniel's earpiece caught the sound and tried to run it through the translator. The device struggled, the alien language full of tones and clicks. But one phrase came clear enough. "Why? Help me." Daniel paused. He looked at her, then at the broken armor still clinging to her side. "Because you need it," he answered simply. "And because I couldn't walk away." She stared at him as if the answer made no sense. Daniel bent closer, working again. He slid a tool under a twisted plate near her shoulder, twisting it gently until the lock snapped loose. The plate fell with a heavy clatter. Smoke hissed from the wound it left behind, and she hissed too, her body stiff with pain. "Easy, easy," Daniel murmured. "Just a little more." His hands moved carefully, never rushing, never pulling too hard. The armor looked fierce, but under his touch it came apart like any broken machine. The woman's gaze softened slightly. She whispered again, this time slower. The translator cracked the meaning. "No one's ever undressed me gently." Daniel blinked, caught off guard. He hadn't expected her to notice his care, but he only gave a small smile and shook his head. "Well, there's a first time for everything." For the first time, her lips curved into something faintly like a smile, though it was mixed with pain. Suddenly, a voice crackled in Daniel's comm. "The captain again. Daniel, report. Patrols are moving into the valley. You have minutes, maybe less. If you're not out soon, we're leaving without you." Daniel's jaw tightened. He glanced around the broken dropship, then back at the woman. She was too weak to walk on her own. If he left her, she would die. If he stayed, he risked his own life and the crew's anger. He turned the comm back on for a brief moment. "I'm bringing someone. Prep the shuttle for takeoff." "Daniel, don't—" He cut the comm again. The woman coughed weakly, her head turning toward him. "Enemy. Close." The translator caught her meaning with no trouble this time. "I know," Daniel said, his hands working faster now. "But you're not dying here." The final locks came free with a snap. The last plate slid away, leaving her body free at last. She took a long, shaking breath, her chest rising fully for the first time. The armor had been crushing her, stealing her strength. Without it, she still looked weak, but alive. Daniel quickly pulled a blanket from his pack, wrapping it around her shoulders. She blinked in surprise at the simple human gesture. "Can you stand?" Daniel asked. Her eyes narrowed. She tried to move, but her legs trembled, refusing to carry her weight. She fell against him, her hand gripping his arm for balance. "All right," Daniel said. "I'll carry you." He lifted her carefully, feeling her weight against him. She was taller, her frame lean but heavy with muscle. Yet she seemed fragile, now, as if the war had drained everything from her. As he stepped out of the wreckage, the sky above roared. Distant engines. Patrols were near. Daniel hurried through the rubble, holding her close. His crew would not be happy, but they would understand once they saw. Or at least he hoped they would. The woman rested her head lightly against his shoulder. For the first time, she did not resist his touch. Instead, she whispered something, soft, almost too quiet for the translator to catch. The words came broken, but their meaning was clear enough. The shuttle hummed softly as it cut through the cold silence of space. Inside, the crew kept their voices low, but Daniel could feel their eyes on him. No one was comfortable with the alien woman aboard. Some sat with hands near their weapons. Others simply stared, waiting for her to make a sudden move. Daniel ignored them. He sat beside her, watching her slow, steady breaths. Her burns had stopped smoking, and the color in her skin was returning. She was alive, and that was enough for now. After a while, her eyes opened. They glowed faintly in the dim cabin light. She looked around, taking in the faces of the crew, then focused on Daniel. "You," she said softly, her voice rough, but stronger than before. "Where am I?" The translator crackled in Daniel's earpiece, smoothing out her words. "You're on our ship," Daniel replied. "Safe, at least for now." Her eyes narrowed. "Humans?" she whispered, as though tasting the word. "Your kind, not safe." Some of the crew bristled at that. One man muttered, "Maybe we should drop her back where we found her." Daniel shot him a look, then turned back to her. "We're not enemies. Not here." She studied him for a long time, her expression unreadable. Finally, she shifted slightly, wincing at the pain still lacing her body. "My name," she said slowly. "Kalira." Daniel nodded. "I'm Daniel." He pointed to the others around them. "That's my crew. Don't worry, they won't hurt you." Kalira gave a short, humorless laugh. "Your people fear me. I see it in their eyes." "They fear what you've been told to be," Daniel answered. "But they don't know you." Her gaze lingered on him, searching his face for lies. Then she lowered her head. "My people, do not allow weakness. Armor is prison. Armor is life. When it breaks, the warrior dies. No one removes it gently. To them, I should have died on that field." Daniel felt a chill at her words. She spoke not only of wounds, but of chains. Her armor had not just been protection, it had been her cage. "You're not a prisoner now," he said quietly. Kalira's eyes flickered with something like disbelief. "And yet, if they find me with you, they will kill me. And you." The cabin went silent at that. Even the hum of the engines seemed quieter. "Then we won't let them find us," Daniel said firmly. Before she could answer, the ship's sensors beeped sharply. The captain cursed and leaned over the console. "We've got company. 2 gunships scanning nearby lanes. They're searching for survivors." Kalira's face hardened. "My people. They search for me. And if they catch us?" one crew member asked nervously. Kalira turned her gaze to him. "They will destroy your ship. Kill you all. Take me back in chains." The crew exchanged worried glances. The captain looked at Daniel. "This is exactly what I warned about. She's a target. They'll hunt us until we're ash." Daniel stood. "Then we stay hidden." We've done it before." "It's not the same," the captain snapped. "These aren't scavenger patrols, they're warships." Kalira's voice cut through their argument. "You cannot fight them, but I know how they search, how they think." Everyone turned toward her. Her expression was grim, but her eyes held a spark of determination. "I can guide you," she said. "But you must trust me." The captain crossed his arms. "Why should we? For all we know, you're leading them straight to us." Daniel stepped forward before Kalira could answer. "Because she doesn't want to go back. She just told us her people would kill her. Why would she help them now?" The captain's jaw tightened. The crew murmured, uncertain. Finally, Kalira lifted her chin. "I do not beg. Believe me or leave me. But if you choose to trust, I will show you the path away from their eyes." For a long moment, silence hung heavy in the cabin. Then Daniel looked at the captain. "We trust her." The captain cursed again under his breath, then slammed a hand on the console. "Fine. But if this goes wrong, it's on you, Daniel." Kalira gave Daniel a strange look, half gratitude, half disbelief. She leaned back weakly against her seat and began giving directions. "Turn 30 degrees starboard. Cut engines to half power. Do not follow normal lanes. My people expect patterns. We must move where no pattern exists." The captain followed, reluctantly. The shuttle drifted into a narrow band of dark space, hidden by the shadows of a broken asteroid field. Outside, the enemy gunships passed by, their scanners sweeping the lanes, but they did not find the human small craft. The crew exhaled in relief as the danger passed. Daniel looked at Kalira. "You saved us." She shook her head. "No, I only delayed their hunt. They will not stop. They never stop." Her words carried weight, like a warning carved into stone. Daniel sat quietly for a moment, then said, "Then we'll keep running." Together, Kalira studied him again, her silver eyes softening just slightly. "Humans, strange. You protect even those who may be your enemy." Daniel gave a faint smile. "Maybe that's why we survive." The cabin grew quiet again. But this time, it was not full of fear. There was something else, something new. A fragile thread of trust had been tied between them. It was thin, almost invisible. But it was there. Kalira leaned back, closing her eyes. For the first time since the battle, she allowed herself to rest. Daniel stayed by her side, watching the stars drift by. He didn't know what lay ahead, but he knew this. He had made the right choice, and he would keep making it, no matter the cost. The shuttle shuddered as it plunged into the asteroid field. Daniel gripped the controls tightly. Outside, jagged rocks spun past like deadly meteors, their shadows stretching across the hull. Behind them, 2 enemy gunships cut through space, engines blazing, scanners hunting for their signature. Every second counted. Kalira, though still weak, stood beside Daniel, her silver eyes scanning the incoming threats. She held a small control device from the dropship, an emergency navigation tool she had salvaged. "They follow patterns," she said in a low voice. "If we break them, we can disappear." Daniel nodded, listening closely. "Do you trust me?" Kalira didn't answer at first. Instead, she gestured to a narrow opening between 2 massive asteroids. "Through there, too small for their wings." The shuttle twisted sharply, metal groaning under the strain. Sparks flew from a damaged panel as it scraped past the rock face. One of the enemy ships opened fire, and the blast tore through the asteroid's shadow, missing them by meters. Daniel cursed under his breath. "I didn't think this day could get worse." Kalira ignored him, her focus absolute. "Keep steady. Engines full power, but minimal signature. They will scan for heat and motion. If you show too much, they see us." The crew moved quickly to follow her directions, adjusting shields and power. Each maneuver was delicate. Too fast, and they would crash. Too slow, and the gunships would catch up. As they weaved through the asteroid field, Kalira gave directions that seemed impossible. Left. No, sharper, wait, now. Her voice was calm, precise, even in the chaos. Daniel followed, marveling at her instinct. For the first time, he realized how humans and aliens could fight differently. Humans used cunning, creativity, and risk. Kalira used experience, precision, and instinct. Together, they were a team neither enemy expected. A blast from one of the gunships hit nearby, sending shrapnel across the shuttle's hull. The ship shook violently. Daniel struggled to maintain control. Kalira grabbed his shoulder. Hold steady. Daniel nodded, gripping the controls harder. The shuttle spun, dodged, twisted, and finally shot into a narrow canyon between floating asteroids. They were invisible from above, hidden in the shadows. The enemy scanned frantically but could not locate them. The crew let out a collective sigh. Daniel didn't relax yet. We're not safe. We move fast, we keep quiet, and we don't stop until the patrol is gone. Kalira's gaze softened, for the first time. You humans, you value life even in war. My people do not. You are strange. Daniel gave a small smile, his eyes never leaving the controls. Maybe that's why we survive. Kalira glanced at him, a faint shadow of a smile crossing her lips. She was still injured, but in this moment she was more than a warrior. She was an ally. Suddenly, alarms blared. One of the gunships had found their trail. Energy blasts hit the asteroids around them, sending debris flying into the shuttle's path. Daniel twisted violently, narrowly avoiding a collision. Sparks and smoke filled the cockpit. Kalira acted instinctively. She reached for the emergency controls, redirecting power to the shields and engines. Now, she shouted. Through the gap. Daniel slammed the shuttle into the narrow opening, metal scraping, alarms screaming, and they shot through, emerging on the other side into open space. The enemy ships followed, but they had misjudged the angle. One crashed against a massive asteroid. The other veered off course to avoid debris. The shuttle's hull groaned in protest, but they were still alive. The crew cheered quietly, but Daniel remained focused. We're not done yet, he said. Kalira nodded. They will search for hours, but now we have a chance. We must use it. As the shuttle moved further from the battlefield, Kalira sat down, exhaustion finally overtaking her. Daniel knelt beside her. You saved us back there, he said. She shook her head weakly. No, I only guided you. Your hands, your crew, kept us alive. Daniel gave a small smile. We kept each other alive. The shuttle finally cleared the last asteroid belt. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly. For a moment, the danger seemed far away. Inside, Kalira allowed herself to relax, leaning back against the wall. Daniel looked at her. You've never had someone handle you gently. Have you? He looked away, almost ashamed. No, she whispered. The shuttle drifted through the empty stretch of space, far from the battlefield and the asteroid belt that had almost claimed them. The stars outside shimmered coldly, indifferent to the tiny human vessel carrying both danger and hope. Inside, the cabin was quiet, except for the hum of engines and the soft hiss of recycled air. Kalira rested against the wall, wrapped in the blanket Daniel had given her. Her breathing was steady, but her body still bore the marks of armor burns and battle fatigue. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, she was allowed to be still, to simply exist without expectation. Daniel sat nearby, repairing a small console that had been damaged during the asteroid chase. Sparks flew from the tool in his hand, but his attention remained divided, half on his work, half on her. He could feel her eyes on him, though she pretended to look out the window. You are quiet, Daniel said finally, breaking the silence. Kalira's gaze didn't shift. You're kinda, you speak when necessary, not when fear controls you. Strange. Daniel chuckled. We talk too much sometimes, but only because it makes the silence easier. You should try it. Silence can be loud when you're scared. She considered that, letting her eyes drift back to the stars. Silence. Never safe in my world. Noise tells the enemy where you are. Stillness is death. Daniel nodded. Then maybe here, you can learn a different kind of stillness. One that doesn't kill you. For a moment she said nothing. Then she spoke, her voice almost a whisper. You are different. You handle me. Gently. Not like they would. My people would never. Daniel set down his tool and leaned back. You're not with them anymore. Not here. Not with me. Kalira's silver eyes softened, just slightly. She had never known care. Not from a warrior, not from a kin, not from anyone. The thought unsettled her in a way she could not fully understand. She had been raised to be weapon and armor. Survival meant pain, trust meant weakness, and weakness meant death. Do you trust me? Daniel asked. She blinked, surprised. The question carried weight, and she hesitated. I do not know what this means. It means, he said slowly, that if something happens, I will not let you get hurt. That I am not your enemy. That my hands, my words, my actions are yours to believe in or not? Kalira stayed silent. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, she leaned closer, resting her head lightly against the wall, letting herself feel something she had never allowed. Safety. Outside, the stars continued to stretch endlessly, indifferent yet constant. Inside, something was shifting. The alien warrior, who had been trained for pain, for dominance, and for fear, was beginning to learn something new. Trust. The shuttle jolted as it passed near a floating debris field, and Daniel instinctively placed a hand near Kalira, ready to assist. She did not flinch. Instead, she met his eyes briefly, a hint of acknowledgement passing between them. They were allies now, bound not by blood or culture, but by necessity and understanding. You have saved me, Kalira said, finally. Not only from the field, from them, but from myself. Daniel shook his head. I just did what anyone would do. I couldn't leave you there to die. Her eyes widened slightly. No, humans. You act without chains. You choose to care. That is power, not weakness. Daniel smiled faintly, a quiet warmth in his chest. Maybe that's why we survive. Sometimes care is stronger than any weapon. Kalira considered this, her mind trying to grasp the simplicity and complexity of it all. She had lived life under strict rules, under chains of expectation, and yet here was a human who did not need her to be a warrior. A human who treated her as a being, not a tool. The shuttle's engine hummed steadily. Daniel adjusted a small control panel near the navigation console. We're safe for now, but we have to decide where to go next. They'll search the area. Kalira, can you guide us again? She nodded slowly, her strength returning with each passing moment. Yes, I know the patrol's habits. We can avoid them, if we move carefully. Daniel glanced at the crew. Some of them still looked uneasy, but they were beginning to see her differently. Not as a weapon, not as a threat, but as a person. Kalira's voice broke the quiet. Your crew, they fear me. They do not understand yet. Daniel looked at her. That's fine. They will learn, just like you are learning. She gave a faint smile, small but real. Learning, trust. Learning, kindness. Strange lessons for a warrior. Daniel leaned back, resting his head against the wall, watching her. Sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones worth learning. The shuttle glided through space, carrying them away from danger, yet towards a future full of uncertainty. Kalira allowed herself to relax in a way she had never experienced. She had survived battles, wars, and the unyielding cruelty of her people, but now she had survived something harder, being cared for without conditions, without chains, without fear. Daniel looked at her again. No matter what happens next, you're not alone. Kalira's silver eyes met his, steady and thoughtful. And you are strange. But I think I may follow your ways, if only a little. He smiled. That's all I ask. The stars stretched endlessly around them. For now, the hunt was over. For now, they had trust, a fragile bond, and a chance to learn from each other. And in a galaxy that expected cruelty and war, that small chance felt like the beginning of something powerful. The stars stretched endlessly outside the shuttle, cold and silent. Inside, the cabin was tense. Kalira sat quietly, wrapped in the blanket Daniel had given her, her silver eyes fixed on the distant horizon of space. She had survived her injuries. She had trusted humans. And she had learned something she had never known before. Care without conditions. But the galaxy was not done with her yet. The ship's sensors beeped sharply. Daniel looked at the console, his face tightening. It's her fleet. They found us. They're nearby, scanning. Kalira's eyes hardened. They will demand my return. They will not understand. I am broken. Weak. I am no longer what they expect. Daniel turned toward her. You're more than what they expect. You're your own choice now. The shuttle shivered as enemy ships closed in. Outside, huge shapes blocked the starlight. Kalira's own fleet, arriving to take her back. She had once followed their orders without question. Now she had to decide, return to a life of chains and war, or stay with humans who had shown her freedom and trust. The crew looked at Daniel, eyes wide with fear. They had followed him this far, trusting his judgment. He stood tall. We're not handing her over. Not now. Not ever. Kalira turned her gaze on the fleet outside. Her people's warships were enormous, terrifying, and precise. She had once been trained to obey without question, to surrender her life when called, to serve the fleet as weapon and shield. Now, the weight of choice pressed down on her. She swallowed. If I return, I will be broken again. Not for my people, but for what they expect of me. My life will belong to them, not me. Daniel moved closer, careful not to crowd her. Then don't go back. Choose yourself. Choose freedom. The fleet opened communications. The voice was cold, commanding, but familiar. Kalira, return at once. Your survival is dishonor. You will submit. Kalira's hands clenched. She could feel her strength returning, the power that had once been hers. But this time, it would not be given to anyone else. She looked at Daniel, at the crew, at the human faces who had trusted her. She realized that strength was not only in armor or war, strength was in choice. I choose my own path, she said, her voice loud and steady. I am not yours to command. I am not your weapon. The fleet paused. A few seconds of silence stretched like steel across the void. Then, one of the warships fired a warning blast, slicing through the emptiness nearby. Daniel held the controls steady. They're testing us, don't flinch. Kalira's silver eyes glowed with resolve. She stood, leaning slightly on Daniel for support. I will not go back, not as a weapon, not as a prisoner. Another warning shot erupted. The crew ducked, instinctively, but Daniel kept the shuttle steady. Then we make them understand, he said calmly. Kalira reached for the ship's emergency navigation controls, the same tools she had used before to save them from patrols. She tapped rapidly, rerouting power, adjusting shields, and guiding the shuttle toward a narrow gap between two massive asteroids. The fleet fired again, but Kalira's knowledge, combined with Daniel's skill, kept them safe. The shuttle twisted and dove, sliding through the gap like a ghost. Outside, the enemy ships tried to follow, but the narrow passage prevented their larger frames from passing. Daniel exhaled quietly. They'll have to retreat, at least for now. Kalira sank back into her seat, breathing heavily. For the first time in her life, she felt fully alive. Not hunted, not trapped, not controlled. She had made a choice, and it belonged entirely to her. Daniel knelt beside her. You did it, you chose yourself. That's more courage than anyone can teach. Kalira's eyes met his. Humans, you are strong, not in armor, not in weapons. Strong in spirit, in kindness. Daniel smiled softly. Strength comes in many forms. Sometimes it's in battle. Sometimes it's in care. The crew, watching quietly, began to see her differently. Fear was replaced by respect. The alien warrior who had once been the galaxy's enemy was now something else entirely, a being capable of choice, loyalty, and trust. Kylyra turned her gaze back to Daniel. You showed me what it means to survive differently, to be more than a weapon.